no secret last year was brutal for the 49ers. It was the definition of like a penthouse to outhouse season, right? You are playing and contending and have a chance for the Super Bowl to then losing 11 games, missing out on the playoffs and finishing last in the NFC West. Injuries did play a role. They in fact ranked second in the NFL for number of games missed by injured players, which included obviously key starters on each side of the ball as well. Looking to this season, it's natural to want to slight San Francisco as well, given all of the talent that is out the door. Deebo Samuel is now in Washington. No Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. The list goes on and on of guys who are no longer there. Yet, there is still confidence in the nucleus of players that the 49ers are bringing back. And they have, at least on paper, the easiest schedule in the National Football League area, whether you are looking at last year's opponent win percentages or this year's opponent season win total. So big picture, when you look at San Francisco, what stands out to you about this team this year in their betting profile?
I absolutely love the 49ers this season because it's injury progression. And you've got Trent Williams, who is your offensive lineman, who was out a lot last year. Christian McCaffrey, your running back, also was out a bunch last year. He ranks 5th among active players in career touches. So, of course, that's going to play a factor. Then you've got the wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk won't be ready. Deebo Samuel's in Washington. So how can Juwan Jennings look? I'm not as worried about the offense, though, as I am about the defense, just because the defense was where they had some issues last year. Last year, they struggled defending against the run, but they've got back their defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, who coached the Jets, and now he's coming back to coach this defense, which was exactly what led the 49ers back to the Super Bowl. They focused on defense in the draft, 5 straight defensive players. As long as the Niners could get back to their old defensive form from a couple years ago, if they stay healthy on the offensive side of the ball. Also, Ricky Pearsall, really excited to see him in his second year and not getting shot in the preseason. So let's see what the 49ers could do when they stay healthy and have a quarterback, Brock Purdy, that knows that his role under center is solidified with his big-time contract. I really love the Niners. I would go over their 10.5 wins. I would go for them to win their division at plus 150. I don't trust the Los Angeles Rams and Matt Stafford with his injury. We talked about it yesterday, Stormy. The Niners, the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say.
I love it, and I'm in complete agreement with you. In the preseason NFL betting guide we did here at VSiN, I put the over 10.5 wins as one of my best bets in our preview. I even think based on the schedule and the talent they have, if you wanted to take a shot on the number 1 seed in the NFC, I don't hate it just based on the number. But looking at a few things with this team, I know you mentioned some concerns or questions about the defense and what they're going to have there. I really love Robert Saleh being back. And sometimes guys are not meant to be head coaches, right? Sometimes they just are better in that coordinator role. And what Robert Saleh did with the 49ers that ultimately got him that job with the Jets, I hope he is able to bring back that stout run D, that hardcore physical mentality that this 49ers defense has had for years previously. And despite some of the guys that are out of that door on defense now, I think one addition that isn't getting talked about a ton with the 49ers, and I've mentioned it with JVT on the program before, is Bryce Huff being brought in. Because last year with the Eagles, I know things didn't work out. He was a healthy scratch down the stretch deep in the playoffs, coming off of that wrist injury that required surgery. But if he can get back to form, and the guy that under Robert Saleh, by the way, recorded a 26% pass rush win rate from 2020 to 2022, top 10 in the league. In 2023, his sack numbers increased, had 10 before he headed to Philly in free agency. If he can get back to that guy playing opposite Nick Bosa and some of the other talented guys that they have on that defense, like, I think that unit could be much better, which makes a big difference. I also in complete agreement with what you said about the contracts getting done on offense, like Brock Purdy being done, that you have George Kittle, that done, and that it's not a distraction during training camp. Obviously, the Juwan Jennings contract is lingering there a little bit, and I think it gets figured out. It just stresses me out to an extent because we don't have a timeline on Brandon Ayuk's return, and will that offense be slow starting? Fortunately, they do get not too difficult of a start to the schedule for those first couple weeks if it does take a little bit of time for him to get back. At Seattle week 1, at New Orleans week 2, Arizona and Jacksonville those first 4 weeks of the season.
When I look at the division, and like you mentioned the first 4, then the 5th week of the year they get the Rams. The Rams are the only team that the Niners really have competition with. I don't see Sam Darnold having another great year like he did last year in Minnesota, now over in Seattle. I don't trust the Cardinals at all. when you look at who their competition is, it's really just Los Angeles. And like you saw the schedule, if you're watching, you see the schedule posted. Your division, 2 out of those 4 teams, you should be, or 2 out of those 3 teams, you should be able to beat multiple times throughout the year. You get New Orleans, who's going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And then you play the NFC South, and you get the Giants. Like, this isn't really a tough schedule at all if you're the Niners. Obviously, it's the easiest in the league. Very winnable if you're healthy. You're getting a roster of Super Bowl runner-ups playing the easiest schedule in football. It's all about injuries, Stormy, and I'm okay with taking proven players off injury, not so much young players that are unproven.
I love it. Get out of training camp healthy. Plus 150 favorites in the division, followed by those Rams you're discussing, plus 195. Seahawks and Cardinals, plus 475 at the bottom of the division. Also, just a couple numbers for your reference if you should be interested. In the comeback player of the year market, Christian McCaffrey, plus 370. Third shot on the board behind Dak Prescott and Aiden Hutchinson at plus 275. He's also 22-1 offensive player of the year. Kyle Shanahan was 30-1 earlier this summer when JVT and I discussed him as a potential should the 49ers have that significant of a bounce back if he gets credited for. He's down from 30-1 to 20-1. And then Nick Bosa, also former defensive player of the year winner, 20-1 in that market, 8th on the board. So just some food for thought.